Welcome to Mindboks, a platform for renewed imagination. Look, if you've ever felt like you're just playing small or like your current circumstances are somehow putting a hard ceiling on your true potential, well, this is exactly what you need to hear today. We are going to be unpacking an incredible masterclass on personal transformation, featuring some truly game-changing insights from GI, founder of the Growth Circle. GI brings this absolutely fascinating perspective on exactly why we get stuck in life, and way more importantly, the precise mechanics of how to break free. I am literally so excited to dive into his framework with you right now. I want to kick things off with a pretty provocative question. Are you a 20-foot tree trapped in a 5-foot pot? Seriously, think about that for a second. Deep down, you just know your DNA has the blueprint for massive, exponential growth, but for some reason, your branches keep hitting this invisible ceiling. So why does that happen? Let's figure it out. Section 1, the bonsai limitation. Okay, to really understand these invisible ceilings we hit, we've got to look at this powerful metaphor of the bonsai tree that GI so brilliantly unpacks. He calls it the bonsai factor, which is basically the artificial stunting of a tree's natural potential. Now here's the crazy part. A bonsai isn't some special miniature species of tree, not at all. It's a completely normal tree with the genetic coding to grow 20 feet tall. But it becomes this tiny 5-foot version simply because it gets planted in a restrictive little pot. The gardener physically prunes its roots and wires its branches down, severely limiting its environment. So what happens? The tree literally shrinks to fit its box. And guys, this is exactly what happens to us. Society acts as the pot. But how? Well, it happens through negative words. Authority figures telling you, oh, you can't do that. It happens through the limiting media we consume, and honestly, through unambitious social circles. Every single time someone speaks down to your dreams, they are essentially clipping your leaves and pruning your roots. Your environment is subtly but aggressively pruning your global potential until you fit perfectly into this tiny, safe, unthreatening little pot. Moving into Section 2, the Genesis principle. So if our environment is out here pruning us, how on earth do we stop it? Well, it starts by understanding how the results in our lives are actually produced. It's a simple formula. Seed plus environment equals harvest. Think of your seed as your input, your environment as the context, and the harvest as your final outcome. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that success or failure, it's not personal. It's literally just a feedback loop. If you aren't getting the harvest you want, it just means you're planting the wrong seed in the wrong soil. There's zero need to take your failures personally. It's just data. All right, so how do we actually fix it? We reverse engineer our lives. Step 1 is you have to define the harvest first. Like, what exactly do you want the end result to be? Step 2, identify the highly specific environment you need to produce that outcome. And then step 3, plant your seed. G actually used this exact method to get a first-class degree. He visualized that outcome, then he intentionally built an environment of study groups and accountability around himself, and finally, he planted the seed of daily studying. He built the right soil, and you know what? The harvest naturally followed. Which brings us to Section 3, the biology of mimicry. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that sounds super logical, so why is it so incredibly hard to actually change my environment, right? Well, it's because we fall into the trap of survival. Human beings are biologically wired to mimic their surroundings. Just like a chameleon changes color to survive in the jungle, you subconsciously adapt to the people around you. Over time, this constant mimicry actually alters our belief systems. GI even points out that repetitive mimicry can cause micromutations in our very DNA. We literally adapt to our limitations because our brains are tricked into thinking it's completely necessary for our survival. Wild, right? And this creates a massively powerful filter in our minds, which is perfectly explained by the red car theory. Have you ever bought a red car and suddenly you see red cars everywhere on the road? Why does that happen? Because committing to an idea causes your brain to constantly scan for it. So think about it. If your restricted bonsai environment constantly feeds you limitations and failure, your reality filter is only going to allow you to see limitations and failure everywhere you look. Let's move to Section 4, the chemistry of context. This brings us to a really fascinating concept GI calls the chemistry of context. It shows exactly how incredibly delicate our environments actually are. Check this out. 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen creates water, right? The literal essence of life. But if you add just 1 extra atom of oxygen, you get hydrogen peroxide, which is completely toxic. And this brilliantly illustrates how your social circles work. Just a slight tweak in your friend group, like 1 toxic relationship or 1 negative influence, can completely turn a life-giving environment into a poisonous one that slowly kills your potential. And remember, we don't just live in one single bubble. We exist in this complex, overlapping web of environments: your physical space, your social circles, the mental media you're consuming, and your spiritual values. If you are struggling to grow, you really need to audit every single row on this list, because at the end of the day, you are the exact average of how all these environments mix together. Section 5, the power of imagination. Okay, so how do we shatter this bonsai pot once and for all, especially if we can't just physically pack up and escape our current environment? I want you to let this quote from Jamal really sink in for a second. That which creates is more powerful than that which is created. Think about it. What created the environments, the massive cities, and the cultures we live in today? Human imagination. Therefore, your imagination is infinitely more powerful than the physical room you're sitting in right now. Your imagination has the sheer power to superimpose a totally new reality right over your limiting circumstances. Let's break down the actual mechanics of how this reality is built. It goes like this: pixels build pictures, pictures build narratives, and narratives build your mental environment. Look, Hollywood and the media use this exact pixel-to-picture pipeline every single day to program our minds with their narratives. So what do? We have to hijack this pipeline for our own growth. We have to intentionally feed our minds with vivid pictures of our future success, basically forcing our internal environment to upgrade before our external one even has a chance to catch up. Section 6, re-engineering your inputs. So how do we practically pull this off? How do we hijack that pipeline and escape the hypnotic rhythm of all these limiting habits? Well, here is your exact playbook from GI for re-engineering your inputs. First, relocate. If you can't pack up and change your physical city, change your social circle immediately. Second, establish strict accountability. But here's the catch: don't tell someone after you failed. Call them before you make the mistake. Third, relentlessly protect your eyes and ears from negative pixels and pictures. Guard your inputs. And finally, guard your spoken words. Speak your harvest into existence. You absolutely have to actively build the soil for that 20-foot tree you were meant to become. The bottom line? You don't have to stay in the pot. It is finally time to break the clay, stretch out your roots, and step fully into your global potential. I want to invite you to join the Growth Circle through Conquering Degrees by following our Instagram handle at allgrowthcircle and link in bio. And I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to really ponder today. If your mind truly acts as the soil for your entire future, what kind of seeds are you allowing the world to plant in you today?